This hangout on air is live. Thank you for joining us on OreAni 2016 Winter Season Lineup Part 2. I am
Okay, what just happened? I think our moderator dropped out.
We're off to a great start.
This does not bode well.
Did you guys hear me do the introduction, or what happened?
Nope. Your voice blanked out. You said I am and then silence.
Oh, snap. Oh, this is great. This is fun. Once again, Tenkun, we have Albert with us,
Hi.
Jessica,
Hello.
and Sean.
Hey.
So, we're just having small difficulties. I accidentally kicked myself out just before we started. So hopefully things will run better now. Once again, thanks to Owen Evans for this awesome cover page. We'll get more information on him later. But let's go ahead and start our anime talk. Yay! First title. Musaigen no Phantom World. Someone really wanted to talk about this.
And that someone is Albert.
No, I'm not.
Phantom World.
Oh my god, you guys.
How much have you seen of Phantom World?
So I saw episode 1, and then I was done.
Yeah. Yep.
But apparently it gets over the fan service elements and a little bit and gets more into the story by episode 4. But I had no patience for it, so it was such a huge disappointment, and just watching KyoAni waste their talent on this drivel was enough to make me give up after episode 1. But that's just me.
It's the worst thing they've ever made. I'm still watching it. I don't know. I might stop. I might stop watching Phantom World. But yeah, it's no joke. It's the worst thing that they've ever done. It's based on a light novel from their own publishing arm, so in that sense, it's kind of like Kyokai no Kanata. It's a lot like Kyokai no Kanata. It's like Kyokai no Kanata, but worse. It's supernatural teenagers can see spirits, and they fight or catch the spirits after school or something like that. It's fairly episodic. Man, the first episode is the worst of the worst. It just goes by in such a blur. Like they give you these huge exposition dumps, and characters are like, the characters are just introduced so fast. Like you barely know who they are, and already okay, now let's go hunt some spirits and that. Oh man, I don't know.
And they do the exposition in front of every episode. At least I watched the first 3 before giving up. And I only watched 3 because it was KyoAni. If it weren't KyoAni, I would have stopped at the first one. But we get that same exposition right before every episode. It's very heavy-handed. And it seems like the director has ADD because the scenes keep switching at such a high rate that it becomes a little not confusing, but it's just, oh gosh, can we please slow down a little bit? And the humor is not original at all. I mean, it's crap.
Yeah, like the attitude that I get from how fast its scenes go and just like how cookie cutter's characters are is, it's almost like the show is saying you've already seen this. It's like we don't have to go over it again, and it has such like it doesn't have any confidence in its own world. You know, it like doesn't even care about its own world. It's just okay. Here are the tropes. You know what they are. Now let's speed through it. Let's get the show over with. And that's kind of a bummer, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where it's. Well, I just watched the first episode, but I know that there's only 2 volumes out of the light novel, and that's not to say it's bad because Kyokai no Kanata only had like 2 volumes out, I believe, as did a couple other KyoAni things. Anyway, the the point is, KyoAni is good at adapting the original source, right? So they have, like in Kyokai no Kanata, they added original story elements, original characters, and they have done that also with Phantom World, from what I read. Like the fairy sidekick is original character, I believe. So that's all fine, but the source material just seems so generically, stereotypically blah that I just couldn't get past the first episode.
So real quick, because I just now noticing that we just started by bashing this show. We haven't even explained what it was about.
No, Sean did.
It's magic teenagers that fight other magic beings. End of story.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's Kyokai no Kanata with even less of a point. Just it is exceedingly similar to Kyokai no Kanata in its premise, which is also a bummer. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of things to say about Phantom World. Like, it does get slightly better over time, for what it's worth, because it doesn't have to introduce so much stuff, and it can just start going through episodic stories of this episode. We're going to face this monster of the week, and the monsters usually aren't monsters per se, but they're like spiritual challenges, or it takes a lot from Japanese mythology. The most recent episode, I think that's episode 4, is about one of the characters being spirited away into a fantasy world where she lives with like this happy bunny family, and the bunny family look like cartoon bunnies, like from a children's anime. And then when she enters the bunny house, then rabbit ears sprout out of her head, and then she's totally in this fantasy world of the happy family. And then when that fantasy ends, she finds herself back at home where she's unhappy because of some family issues. I don't know. It's like, it's functional, but it doesn't. I guess it's not detailed enough, because the feel of Phantom World is kind of like I said, you already know all these tropes and you've seen all these stories before, and we're not going to show you anything new. So just fill in the blanks. Like, we don't have to tell the complete story. We don't have to really like build up like all the meaning of the story and all that stuff. I don't know. It seems cookie cutter in a way that's depressing, because it almost knows that it's cookie cutter, and yeah. I don't know. It's like it feels like a show where no one making the show is really invested in it. They're just getting paid, which is the opposite of the previous show that they just did, which was Hibike Euphonium, where the craft of that show was just so high, like it was amazing, and just the detail and the storytelling, like all the emotions are so like genuine and powerful, and like even the way that they draw the instruments is just incredible. Like someone really poured themselves into that work. And then you go to Phantom World, it's just so run of the mill.
What about you, Tengen? You're watching it too.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I don't know. It's interesting enough that I can keep on watching it, but it's not like I have to watch it. I always like the character designs for KyoAni, and I just don't know where this is. Like, it's so episodic right now that I kind of want and hoping that they bring up something big to keep me hooked into it, so I can keep on watching it. Because I tend to like at least arcs that are at least 2 or 3 episodes long, not just one episode. Stuff that keeps on going on. If they could probably lengthen the arcs, I think I'd be more interested in seeing what's going on.
I think there will be a later kind of a big story arc moment from just reading a synopsis that there will be a event that occurs that all of them get pulled into. So, but yeah, I don't have any investment, so.
More than likely, everyone's going to be dropping this show, or
Well, I already did, so you know, overall this season I think is quite variable, right? But even then, I just did not feel like I wanted to watch this, so I gave up.
I watched 4 episodes just so I could talk about it on this hangout. That was my number one motivation. My number two motivation is I'm interested in charismatic studios like Kyoto Animation, and even when they make something that is complete crap, I want to see at least some amount of it, right? So I have a good idea of what it is and why it's crap and how it sort of fits into their filmography or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yeah, I think Phantom World is the worst thing they've ever made. It's incredible to see them go from Euphonium to Phantom World, but
Yeah, there is that people are, they're especially harsh on Phantom World because Euphonium was so good, but even if this was following, something less, I don't know, like any of their lesser shows, right? Even if it was like following Kyokai no Kanata or I can't think of another title right now, but even if it was, I think this is pretty bad. This does fall into the worst of KyoAni.
I guess the other comparable thing is what was that thing about the Chunibyo demo koi gashita?
Yeah.
Shitakoi.
Yeah. I mean, which I think is a more enjoyable show than Phantom World, but that comes from the same director, from what I remember, and it's also based on a novel that comes from the KyoAni publishing arm.
That one had a lot of charm,
Yeah.
and I'm not getting that vibe from this one at all. Is when I was sitting down to watch the 3rd episode, my gut feeling was, ugh, do I have to watch this? And that's a pretty good indicator that I need to drop the show. It's just, it doesn't really have anything redeemable about it. Is that little fairy sprite or phantom that floats around. She's supposed to be the cute mascot character, but she's really just annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing about Phantom World works. It's all ham-fisted. The humor falls flat. The drama falls flat. It is well animated on a purely technical level. That is the only strength of this show. At least KyoAni can do that. They can make the characters move and they look nice when they do.
Yes, KyoAni can do boob physics. We all know that, so let's just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I haven't watched yet.
Just what?
Babuki Buranki, right?
Mm-hmm.
I only saw the first episode and it looked cool. but I haven't had time to catch up. It's 3 episodes, right?
Uh,
Did 4 just come out? I haven't had a
watched-
chance to watch it.
I watched an episode today. They kind of blur together. So the first episode was, that's the first episode. And then the second episode, they had the big mecha battle. Third episode, what even happens? Did they fight the man with the gun?
That
And
was in
then-
episode 2.
And then in episode 4, they fight the man with the gun some more. The latest episode is like the super showdown with the gunman.
Okay, I haven't seen that one yet.
Like-
But I will say that generally I detest the 3D animation. When anime tries to do that, it does not work. And I've watched a lot of those. But Bubuki Buranki actually looks okay. The characters move naturally, within the technical limits of the show. They don't jank around. The facial expressions are pretty good, unlike Knights of Sidonia, where they were terrible. And so it's enjoyable, even though it's animated in 3D. And I had watched it after I'd watched Phantom World and a couple other shows where it was just, let's start the first episode with an info dump. But this show does not do that, and it was such a breath of fresh air, is that you're in this world, and you're following the little kids in this family, and there's no one else around, and there are these weird mechs which have a sort of evil aura about them, and you don't know anything, so you're discovering the world along with the characters, which is exactly how a well-written show should be. And for that alone, I was enthralled with this program.
I would agree up to a point. Like I felt that way too when I saw the first episode. I'm like, oh hey, it's it's not dropping the exposition bomb. You're following like a couple of kids kind of explore the world, and parents are keeping secrets from them, and like gradually the world opens up, but then it escalates way too fast in episode 2. Like there's suddenly the big bad showdown with the end boss. Like all the characters are assembled. You hardly know who they are. And even in episode 3, the main character admits, it's like, I haven't been introduced to all of you. But it escalates way too fast. I'm like, okay, you need to give me what's going on. You need to give me what the stakes of the battle are. There's a lot of bombast in the show. Like half of the show it consists of splashy action, and the other half of the show consists of smack talk.
Agreed.
Like, you can't defeat me. Like my boo-boo key skills are greater than yours. Haha. There's a lot of that.
The second episode. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Where they all come together felt like the last episode almost. It just had that much gravitas and that much writing on the event, and all the kids are there, and all their mech parts come together to form the super mech, and it felt. I agree that the show should have slowed down a teeny bit more, give us a better idea of the setting.
Yeah, because we're not really sure why the main character man is there. Like we know that Reo Kosama, who is the authoritarian leader of future Japan or something, because she controls the super mechs or something. We know that she's bad and she must be stopped, but we don't really know who the revolutionaries are or what they intend to do. There's too little established, and it escalates like almost to a climactic level in episode 2, which is crazy.
But in some ways that's preferable than the heavy-handed, this is the world, these are the characters, these are the institutions, this is why they're doing that. I'd rather have less information than all of it at once, but that's just a personal preference.
Yeah, I don't know which is the lesser of two evils, because the end result is the same, where you're just looking at the screen like, what, and you're just detached from what's happening. Whether it's a big exposition dump or a battle that seems meaningless. Um, but yeah, on a visual level, Bubuki Buranki is kind of cool. It's definitely more appealing on on visual terms than Ajin, which is the Polygon Pictures thing. Bubuki Buranki comes from Sanzigen, which is a studio that's very close to Studio Trigger, and it totally shows. It feels it feels like they're trying to. It's like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill put together. It's like they're really trying to make their own like big hype Hiroyuki Imaishi anime or something for themselves. But it doesn't have the the sort of measured storytelling and balance that Hiroyuki Imaishi has. Like in Kill la Kill, like yeah, it would escalate to crazy levels, but it was always aware of like what you knew and what you didn't know, and it would like slowly dole out the information. Like it felt natural, even as the main character was being propelled into battle against like these weird foes, you know, with crazy powers that you don't know about. But it felt right. In Bubuki, not so much, but they are establishing some of the characters. Like the most recent episode wasn't that bad because as the two characters are engaged in their weird, superpowered Mortal Kombat, they also, of course, go into the backstory. And it doesn't explain that much, but it explains the bare minimum.
So I had a quick question. So I remember I've at least seen the first episode, and I've kind of been wondering it. I don't mind the spoiler, but did they ever show or do you see that sister again?
Nope.
Not so far.
Hasn't been introduced yet, but I won't be surprised if she appears. Like any moment now, they could bring her in any time. So after the childhood arc, like in the middle of episode 1, after that ends, we see the boy as a teenager. He comes back to Shinjuku, Tokyo, and he says that I've been searching ever since for something, but I could not find it. So now I'm back here. Like his search has ended in vain. So presumably he's searching for his sister.
Really? I thought he explained that he was looking for Obu, right?
Oh,
he was looking for the Buranki itself.
Yeah.
That was obviously taken apart and put into a secret installation, whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, I somehow missed that.
But there's no explanation about what happened to the father, what happened to the sister, right? And they're slowly revealing the world view that the fascist state behind the democracy, kind of a. I mean, there's still a prime minister in Japan, but the actual power is controlled by Ryoko, right? So. Yeah. All of that is being slowly revealed. It's written by 2 people, neither of whom I know a lot about. One of them used to write adventure games as scenarios for that, and now is doing anime. And then the other writer has been a nonfiction writer primarily, but have been doing scenarios for anime, obviously. So there may be a disconnect between some of the styles and who their writers are. So the series composition seems a little bit weak. And after watching 2 episodes, I really had no investment in any of the characters. So I let it go.
I'm somewhat fascinated by Bubuki Buranki in the same way that I'm fascinated by Phantom World, in the sense that like I think Sanzigen is trying to establish their own identity with Bubuki Buranki. Like they want this to be the show that puts the studio on the map, and also makes people think that CG is kind of cool.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, because their 10th year anniversary, and this is their 10th year flagship anniversary show. So yeah, absolutely, they're trying to put their name on the map. I'm just not sure that this is actually going to accomplish what they wanted to.
Yeah, I guess as an example of the rate as the rate which it escalates. When at the end of episode 1, you see the big robot in pieces, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they're going to build this robot like piece by piece over time, and then in the final episode of the show, they're going to pilot the robot and defeat the evil. In episode 2, the robot just comes to life, and they're just in the mecha battle. I'm like, oh my god. I was not ready for this. It's 10 episodes too soon. But it has a lot of style. Like I will give them credit for that. Like maybe probably way too much for its own good, because I guess my criticism of the show is that it's too surface level. Like a lot of the show consists of action or shouting, and there's not as much world building happening as I would like. Like it's a very surface level, flashy kind of thing, and you know that doesn't make it particularly bad. It's kind of entertaining, but I wish there was more to it. Like it doesn't stay with me after I watch it. I don't think about that world like when I'm not watching the show, because it doesn't really give me much to think about.
Welcome to the hangout, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything to add to Babuki Baranki?
I don't know what was previously said due to my, kind of late entry, so I just might pass it up for now.
It also doesn't have the fun themes of Hiroyuki Maishi. Like in Gurren Lagann, it was about drills, and in Kill la Kill, it was actually a bit more interesting. It was about like clothing and what clothing has to do with your identity, and and that sort of thing. Like Kill la Kill had some interesting themes, and Bubuki Baranki, I cannot tell you anything about what its thematic thrust is. Like it doesn't even seem to be there. Like there's no motif that connects everything together. It's just stuff. It's just colors. It's just crazy character designs and crazy action scenes and lots of shouting. It's Bubuki Baranki.
All right.
Yeah, I think the exposition that it chose to utilize was much like K from predecessing seasons. The main character in this one really doesn't know about the world in general. Like, he was never informed, and that's kind of how they're telling the story. It's like we are kind of as lost as he is at the moment. So
yeah,
we don't have any additional knowledge that he does not. So.
Yeah, it's a useful plot device to have a character that doesn't know that much about the world, so people have to tell it to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he also makes some incredible leaps of faith, where it's like, I don't know all your names, but we need to fight together to defeat the evil because I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's like he's very gung-ho about things that he has no idea.
He wants to get back home. That's as long as it achieves this goal of finding out what happened to his mother over these past 10 years.
I need to get back to Treasure Island. I'm a pirate captain. My name is Luffy.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Next up, we have, what is this, Dimension W? What was that thing? They're all at the coils that they're talking about?
Yep. Yeah.
All about the coils?
It's like the better version of Vivid Red, right?
Go ahead, tell us about it, Nick.
Alright, well, I don't know much of the backstory to this one. I like to kind of be shocked by anime as I come across it, so I'm sure others will fill you in on the backstory as far as the talent and who conceived such a title, but all I can tell you about is what happened in episode 1, and I forget if you're introduced to this right at first, but you're basically told via an animation that we have contacted like a fourth dimension of space, and seemingly nothing is there, at least so far that we're told, except like this massive amount of untapped energy. So the scientist invented this thing called a coil that can reach into this fourth dimension of space and bring that energy to it. So it essentially is like a wireless, a Wi-Fi power device. You just plug it into anything, maybe use it, and it powers, and you don't have to worry about charging batteries anymore, anything like that. So we are introduced to this society that that is kind of like trying to move the world into this new green form of electricity. They're hiking up the price on gas and anything fossil fuel, and we are met with this character who does not seemingly like these coil devices, and he's kind of stuck in the past, and he refuses to use coils for as much as he can control not using them. So then we get onto the story after the introduction of the characters. He, as a profession, aside from seemingly working on cars in like an old-fashioned auto shop, recovers illegal devices that improperly tap into this fourth dimension to get their electricity. And apparently the company pays a pretty high fee for the recovery of such illicit coils. The coils seem to be managed exactly kind of like gun rights in the future. You have to have a registered coil, and everything has to be all, you know, matched up with it, how you're using it, and stuff like that. It relays information somehow. That's all in the background, but so I mean that's ultimately what the series is going to be about. This guy, as he recovers these illegal coils, and he has to kind of work with what was introduced in the first episode as a seemingly really human robot. He kind of disbelieves in how much of a personality this thing has. He thinks at first it was kind of like fronting a human-like personality to try to recover coils with a competing recovery agent. But later he finds out that not only is it a full robot, but it is not working with anyone, and it kind of asserts that it's much like a person, and it's technology that these guys do not really conceive exists. Like, it is some really big secret that if other people found out that this is where this robot ended up, like, they know that they are going to be silenced. So. That's pretty much like the gist of the main story of Dimension W, without diving into like the themes it's using or anything like that.
You think it's any good?
I'm personally liking the expressions that it utilizes with that robot. I am enjoying the world it has created thus far, and it's one of it's on my higher end of titles that I look forward to each week, just because like it's got this pretty zany story, and I think it capitalizes on it pretty well. Like, you know, I kind of want to know what happens each week, and the antics that it kind of tosses up are interesting for its level of show.
It reminds me a lot of Blood Blockade Battlefront, just in that it has a lot of style but very little substance.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be created purely to market to American audiences because it has a lot of things that are popular over here, and yet I don't really know much about the characters. They're not really that interesting, what little we do know about. It seems very similar to the Cthulhu Tech tabletop RPG as far as its setting goes, what with the unlimited energy source and everything, and I'm going to give it another few episodes just to see if it catches its stride, but right now it's not really impressing me at all. The animation is really nice, though. I gotta say that the main character has some mad fighting skills with his little fishing lure things. But right now it doesn't really have enough pizzazz for me to recommend it to anybody.
Interesting. So I'm from the up. Sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say he kind of reminds me of the dude from Darker Than Black.
Yeah.
Gin. Yeah. So I'm of the opposite opinion than Jessica. What happened was I didn't really care for the premise. You know, I just briefly read, and then I saw the robot girl uh, character design. I'm like, oh, great. You know, it's just a bunch of mishmash of fetishes. She's got some sort of
Yeah.
antennae that looks like almost like ears. She's got some sort of tail thing that's, you know, whatever. And of course, she's got a hot body, right? I'm like, oh, great. This is just another one of those. But I'll watch the first episode. And the first episode turned out, oh, you know, the animation's actually pretty good. They have kind of an interesting worldview, although the info dump was super annoying, and they have the info dump every episode. Okay.
Yes.
It's like a part of the opening sequence.
Yeah,
Somehow.
it is.
Yeah.
So, and then I watched the second one, and it just kept, you know, I just kept wanting to know more about it, right? And the character moments, it is slowly but surely building. You find out that Kyoma used to belong to you know, a special ops unit, basically. That's why he's such a badass. He's the baddest of the badass team, and still remains a badass for some reason. So there's a little bit of that. I found some of the characters, like the lady that he works for or gets the jobs from. What was her name? Marie? Or yeah, I think it's Marie. You know, her character design, she's kind of a fat lady. You know, which is something a little bit unusual. So I'm like, oh, okay. Of course, there's the tech kid wizards and all kinds of tropes, but the story is interesting enough that it's bringing back. It is based on a manga, and I'm not exactly sure. I think there's like 4 volumes out. I could actually easily check that, but yeah. So I don't know. There seems to be a lot of backstory that they are slowly revealing, and at the same time, you know, they're not taking themselves too seriously, right? I mean, just look at the OP where Kyoma, you know, the badass, starts breakdancing or whatever you want to call that. I don't know, the dance style. You're like, okay, they're having fun with this. So yeah, it does kind of bring you in. There is a greater mystery. There are recurring, you know, characters that are brought in. You know that there's a bad thing going on behind the scenes at New Tesla, which I do love the name, and the secrets behind these coils that, you know, give you unlimited power, but you find out that the test prototypes actually are even more specialized. And that is what it seems a later character, you know, is invested in recovering. That seems to also lead to the robot girl Mira's probably conviction that she has to follow these and to find out the truth about her father/creator and what happened to him. And I think it also ties into the disaster that was mentioned briefly for Kyoma and how his squad got either wiped out or disbanded. We're not really sure about that either. So there's a lot of intriguing things going on, and despite wanting to not like it, I am still continuing to watch it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to keep watching it due to momentum as well. But you know, every episode, I guess I can't really get into the show. Like it hasn't really drawn me in, but I'm watching it anyway. I guess one of the interesting peripheral aspects about it is that Funimation is on the production committee, and they say that this is the first show that they've actually been on the production committee for. So in the planning phases of the show, when like the premise and everything was greenlit, then Funimation put in the money. So that is a extreme vote of confidence that this is a show that is marketable to the West. So I'm kind of interested in seeing, like, well, what does Funimation consider marketable? And Dimension W kind of reminds me of a mid-90s Gonzo anime or something. Or sorry, a mid-2000s Gonzo anime. Like Speed Grapher or something along those lines. And kind of like that era of Gonzo anime. It's like a mishmash of sort of genre tropes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel like I'm ever watching anything terribly new when I'm watching Dimension W, but it has a variety of things in it. And it has a Robo Girl, and then there's the episode where the Robo Girl like comes, like saves some kids while she's afraid of like being ostracized because she's a robot and not a person. You know, that sort of stuff. There's the latest episode. They do a haunted house kind of episode.
Oh, I haven't watched that one.
All of it
Okay.
revolves around the terrible secret of Dimension W and the coils. The coils tap into this mysterious Dimension W and provide free power, you know, for all of human civilization across the globe. But we don't really know what it is. And as was mentioned, there are these special experimental coils called the numbers. And these numbers can tap into Dimension W in an even deeper way. Like it can almost open a portal to that dimension. And it seems like Dimension W is probably going to be a metaphor for the Japanese underworld, which is a world of madness, and you can hear the spirits of the dead, and that's what it seems to me. That's probably going to be the terrible secret of Dimension W, that they're tapping into the underworld. But yeah, I don't know. It's entertaining. There's a variety of things, and I just don't feel that attached to it. In every episode, I'm always scratching my head. I'm like, is this good? I don't know yet. It's like the jury will probably be out for me, like all the way through episode 12 or 13 or however long this is going to go. Yeah, it is what it is. If you want a sci-fi adventure, then this is that. But I don't think its world is terribly distinctive. You know, even just the premise of like the city that is powered by the magic whatevers, you know, whether that's Dimension W or if it's an RPG, it would be the power crystals. But then, you know, but it's something about it is unsustainable or subtly evil, and maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And you know, like even that premise is very familiar to me. So at some point they're going to discover the terrible secret of Dimension W, and the ending of the show will, I don't know, maybe it's an ongoing manga, I don't know if it really ends, but a natural conclusion to me would be like, okay, we discovered that Dimension W is evil, we need to destroy all the power spires forever and go back to using fossil fuels or solar power or something. It's predictable in that sense. It's like, I know all these tropes, I know where they all go.
All right. Thank you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I don't know if I could pronounce this at all.
Yeah, where's Tripley when you need him? I'm so sad that he's not here.
Schwarzesmachen.
Yep.
See, I would have said that way different. But I feel really bad about this show. I mean, I've wanted to watch it so many times, and I don't know if it's just because of my timing, but every single time I watch this, I fall asleep.
What?
I don't know why. It's just like first episode, I remember trying to watch it, and then I woke up at the end. I'm like, what just happened? Second episode, same thing, and
You know, I wouldn't really think that interdimensional monsters that bloodily beat people to death and soldiers with PTSD would be an insomnia cure, but to each his own, I guess.
that's what surprises me, because I know it's field of conflict, a lot of yelling, I believe, was going on. Because I remember they keep on hitting this girl or something. But I can't remember what happens too much because I was asleep. But
But Jessica, not to like lash out at Tenki or anything, you're gonna find it's a recurring trope of his to mention which show he keeps falling asleep on each season.
so if you guys can explain it to me, why you guys like it?
Well,
is a
Sean
huge
wrote
force.
a really good synopsis and analysis of it the other day on Google+.
I wrote a guide for it anyway, because unfortunately for this show, it has both a historical context that that is not fully explained. Like, it's minimally explained, and it's also a spin-off. It's an adaptation of a spin-off of some old eroge series, some erotic game series, sci-fi thingy. So it helps to read a little bit about that universe too. Like, it's a spin-off of the Love universe, or it's like a prequel or something. But no, to put it in the simplest terms, the Schwarz's Marken it's a war drama. It's a straight up war drama, and to my surprise, it takes its topic like way more seriously than a lot of anime take their subject matter. Like the aesthetics at first are really garish. Like, you see those boob tight like jumpsuits, mecha jumpsuits, and you're like, oh
I hate
man.
those things. Oh.
And you're thinking like, man, there's gonna be gonna be a shower scene in episode 1, there's gonna be a bath scene in episode 2, and then they're gonna go out on a date in episode 3. None of that stuff happens. Like, it is all business. It is all the horror of war. It's a lot like some Hollywood young adult literature thing. Where the kids are put into this like dire situation. They have to fight, and the system is oppressing them, and there's no escape, and war is hell. And if you want that sort of thing, if you want this like really dire war drama, then Schwarz's Marken is pretty good. This is the one. But you have to be receptive to what it is, and you have to look over a bit of its like eroge elements, such as like the extreme gender imbalance and the really bad character designs for the mecha jumpsuits. Like, those are really cheesy. Like, they signal an anime that this isn't. Like, Schwarz's Marken is not that. Like, it doesn't play into that as much as you think it would, or at all. Okay, I think I'm spent for now. Someone else has to talk about it.
Yeah, I actually kind of remembered watching the original animation. That was that Move Love Total Eclipse. I recall it being called. And at first I didn't know that this thing was connected in any way to that. I just I watched the episode 1, right, and I see these like alien things. Like, wait, that's from that anime I watched like years ago. Like, is this just like a rebranding? Like, are we going to have different mechs and they're fighting this, and they just like needed this universe to do this spin-off? And then, I find out.
I didn't know either. Like, I saw the whole first episode, and then I looked it up. And I'm like, oh, it's a spin-off of the Love universe. No wonder why the suits look terrible.
Yeah, and then I see like the robots actually come in. I'm like, okay, no, that's all the same. It's just a different story, I guess. Like, there was no name semblance at all, so that just kind of blew me away at first. And then it was kind of funny because I like how you keyed in on this one, and like, the first adaptation, Love, was exactly like as you were describing. So
there's a lot of like boob service in there.
Well, not necessarily.
Like,
but there's your dating episodes and your bath scenes, shower scenes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it catered around like this main character as he was like trying to I think he was like this startup recruit guy, or he was kind of good, and like I just remember like they were trying to build up his skill. Like that was a lot of it. He had to get to know the cast, and he had to like get better at piloting the mech. And that's what like a lot of the first one was about, when it wasn't trying to do all of its alien war battle things. But so I'm hoping that this one's going to be different there for you. But just to key you in, the first one was played up on a lot of the tropes that you were just kind of mentioning right now.
So this anime takes place in communist Germany in the 80s. So it's a nation that no longer exists, of course. I didn't know much about it, so I actually spent a few hours like just reading articles on Wikipedia about communist Germany. And it's interesting. It's yeah, I don't even know how I want to go into that topic. let's just set it aside. It has an interesting cultural context, I'll say that. It's fun to read about the in this particular show, the nemesis of the mecha pilots, like the army, are the secret police, the Stasi, as they call them. And sorry, I can't I can't talk about it now. It's too complicated.
Yeah, the monsters that they're fighting on, while terrifying, are in some ways less terrifying than the Stasi, because you don't know who they are. Where with the monsters, okay, it's very apparent that the thing that has 8 legs and a head on a stalk, that's the bad guy. But with the Stasi, it could be your best friend or your child, your husband or wife. It could be anyone. And so the characters are discontented with the current regime, but at the same time there's that fear of fighting back, because who do you fight against when your neighbor could turn you in? And that aspect is one of the ones that keeps me coming back, is that the show's not very pretty to look at with the character designs and whatnot that we talked on, but that particular part about not knowing who to fight is very intriguing and makes the show fresh.
Yeah, and also regarding the aliens themselves, the show doesn't tell you this, but I had to look it up on like a Mublub wiki or something. But I kind of respect that the combat of Schwarzmarken it's fairly logical. Like like there are many varieties of alien invaders, and they all serve a sort of tactical role. And the mecha themselves also serve a tactical role. Like the premise of the battles in this universe are that there is a small quantity of what they call laser class aliens that can just blow up artillery and air support just like right out of the sky, like instantaneously. And then there are a bunch of like melee infantry, you know, just like big evil things with teeth and claws. So the conundrum is we can't defeat the infantry if we don't have artillery and air support. We can't have artillery and air support as long as the laser class aliens are sort of terrorizing the skies. So the mecha are a purpose-built vehicle to destroy the laser class units, and that's all they do. So I kind of respect that. You know, it's not like they are the ultimate super robot that will defeat all the aliens. It's like, no, they have their place on the battlefield. You know, they have their mission. They go on a laser hunt, as they call it in the show, the laser yacht or whatever. And yeah, the Stasi element is pretty cool because you don't know who's an informant. And the show is smarter than even I expected to be. Like in the latest episode, the main character Theodore, you see in his flashbacks over and over. Like they've really shown this flashback like 10 times. You don't need to show it that many times. That he loses his sister to the Stasi as he's trying to jump the Berlin Wall. They are both captured, and he never finds out what happens to his sister. And then one day, the sister just appears, and she's been assigned as a mecha pilot in his unit. And the immediate next scene is like all of his commander and his co-pilots are just, you know, huddled in a circle, and they go around the circle, and they're like, "She is a Stasi spy. She's a Stasi spy. She's a Stasi spy." And the commander says, "She's a Stasi spy, and her mission is probably to turn you, main character man, into an informant." And then the main character says, "Okay, that's probably true, and we're going to keep an eye on her. I'm going to try and find out what her deal is." And I was so glad that the show doesn't have stupid characters, you know, because that could have gone in a different way. That like the main character could have just like played right into that trap And I thought that's totally what was going to happen, but then the team just like got right on top of it, like what's going on. So it's a smart show, I think. Like even though it frequently goes over the top, with its war drama, but that's okay, it's smart in the ways that it needs to be. Like it doesn't try to have like big gaping plot holes in it. So I can respect it on that level too.
So Albert, did you drop this?
Yeah, I watched the first episode and was not interested enough, and I've never seen any of the other Muv-Luv anime or played the game, or actually it's a eroge, isn't it? Anyway,
Yep.
So yeah, I just watched it. I was doing the Nick thing this season, just picked up all the shows possible to watch it without any idea what the hell was going on, and yeah, it was pretty gruesome, that first episode. People are just dying left and right, and one of the supporting characters in their platoon gets horribly injured, and they have to put her out of her misery. You're like, whoa, okay, that just happened. They shot one of their comrades to put her out of her misery. Okay. So it was interesting, but I just didn't have any other investment in it to continue watching. And I know it has a lot of complicated, issues, but neither this, I don't know. It just seemed like they are slightly losing the battles, it seems like, and I just don't see how East Germany alone could ever hope to sustain and persevere against what are the monsters called? The beta. Yeah, the beta. And the interesting part, like Sean mentioned, is this whole who is the real enemy? Who can you trust in this paranoid society where anyone can be an informant, your own family turns against you, and all that, because one of the characters has a rumor that she sold out her own brother. The main character himself was captured and was essentially, had no other choice but to join the armed forces, because that's the only place he could be employed, because he's a traitor to the country, so no one would hire him, right? So there's all these issues going on, and politically, yeah, it's interesting. I'm just not. If this wasn't set in the Muv-Luv universe, I might have kept watching. I just after the first episode said, okay, I've seen enough, so I'm gonna drop it.
Yeah, it could be a better show if it didn't have to be part of that universe. I think the legacy of that universe, like it imposes aesthetics on Schwarzmarken that are no longer true. Like it's not a boob service, like eroge type thing, but it still has those aesthetics. So it gives you a bad first impression in that sense. I think the current state of affairs with alien invasion and East Germany is pretty dire. Like Poland, it seems like Poland is pretty much wrecked, and East Germany is the new front. And in episode 4, or the latest one, whatever, this weekend's episode, they actually join up on this joint Warsaw Pact and NATO forces like joint operation to retake part of Poland. And like East Germany has to be there to represent, and then you get into some of the nature of like what does it mean to represent, on this global stage.
Mm-hmm.
And they also talk about like nobody likes East Germany, but they find us useful to act as a buffer between the alien front and the NATO nations, and so that's why we continue to be useful to them. But when it comes down to it, like they don't care about us. So it has interesting dimensions like that, and it slowly opens up the world a little bit, like as you watch it, because at first you're just sort of teenagers being forced to fight these battles and they don't even know why. But then like the context of it sort of builds over time. So it does have like even storytelling in that sense. Like,
Does anyone?
it's not just like like too much information or just like too much conflict right off the bat, like a Phantom World or Bubuki Buranki. Like, I think the storytelling of Schwartz's Market is pretty balanced, like compared to those.
Were you trying to say something, Nick?
Yeah, I was just gonna like try to refresh everyone's memory. I think they might have explained it like once in the opening episode, but does anyone remember why they are called the Beta? Like how they acronym that?
Oh my God! It's like
No.
it's so bad.
It was that long on the screen. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like it's so the long written out thing that doesn't even make sense as an acronym is beings of extraterrestrial origin, which is adversary to the human race. So it's like beings extraterrestrial adversary is like what makes it into the acronym that was not in that long sentence of the thing.
Japan and their acronyms.
The beings of extraterrestrial origin, which is adversary of human race. Nope. Let's just call them the Beta and forget what it stands for.
Right. Yeah. I just kind of wanted to gloss over that like one more time because I remember that from the first like actual series I watched from this whole universe thing.
Yeah. Forget what it stands for. Just do it for your psychological health. They're the Beta.
All right, let's go on to the next title, which we got. What is this? Kono Subarashi Sekai ni Kufuku wo?
Yep. Good job.
What is that, like the newest Saikana show?
No, that was the Saikana show is Shoujo wa Koya wo Mezasu,
Yeah, like Shoujo something I remembered, yeah.
which also not that good.
I thought it was like Shoujo Tachi, or was that something else?
Yeah.
Oh, that was that one. Which one is this one then?
What? Oh, so
You don't know which one this one is? For shame.
you haven't been watching it?
Oh, that one.
So yeah.
I actually read the light novel and the manga parts to it.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Konosuba, for short, is a series of light novels, and I started watching this because I'm like, this probably isn't going to be that good, but I was doing the Nick thing, so I watched the first episode, and I was laughing so hard. And does anyone care if I spoil the first episode?
Go for it. Try to watch it.
So, like I said, it's a series of light novels, and it got adapted into anime, and you can kind of see from the character design that Studio Dean is doing this, okay, which is both, could be a plus, could be a minus to a lot of people, especially like their last big show, I think, was Log Horizon 2, which a lot of people did not care for their animation shortcuts. But anyway, it starts off with our protagonist there, Kazuma, and you can tell he's kind of a otaku, right? He's a gamer otaku, and he is shut-in for the most part. But one day he goes out to go buy a newly released game, and he sees on the way back a girl almost being run over by a truck. So uncharacteristically, he pushes her out of the way and dies. And he awakens in the afterlife, where the blue-haired girl is a goddess, Aqua, is there, and the truth is revealed that he did not save anyone, because this is the reality. The girl was waving to the old man on a tractor going really, really slow. He just had a chunibyo moment and decided to push her out of the way, and from the exertion had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, because he thought a truck was there, so he goes into cardiac arrest because he believes he's about to be hit by a truck.
Yeah, so, and also he pissed himself, right? So
Yeah.
this is just,
Yeah.
wow, you guys are really mean, you know? And then he gets an offer from the goddess saying, you can be reincarnated or you could go to heaven, which basically is really boring. Or there's a third option, a limited time option where you can be reincarnated as yourself with all your knowledge into this world where the people are fighting demon lord and needs new adventurers. And as an added bonus, you could take one thing with you. You know, it could be a super weapon, it could be a super rare skill, but we'll throw this in. So what do you say? You know, and so he's, as a gamer, is trying to decide, but she's just like eating potato chips, and she's like, "Hey, can you hurry it up?" And so pissed off, he goes, "Okay, I pick you." And she's like, "All right, so don't go. Wait, what?" And another angel appears and says, "Your wish has been granted, Mr. Kazuma. Good luck, Aqua." Right? And it's just ridiculous from the get-go. She's like, "No!" And yeah, they end up in a completely, a different world. And he's like, "Awesome! All right, first thing to do, go find the Adventurers Guild and go register. Hey, we need your registration fee." Wah, wah, wah. Fail. Right? And then the Aqua's like, "Leave it to me," and she goes up to a priest and begs to borrow money, right? Upon which the priest is like, "I don't follow your goddess. By the way, here's some money for charity," And she comes
No,
back
no,
and goes,
no,
"Oh,
no. Unless you don't want to. Unless you don't want to spoil the joke. The joke there was funnier.
it will take too long trying to get through this."
Okay. Okay.
So she's like, "Oh, I got some money," and so Cosma registers, and apparently there's a device that tells you your stats, right? Because this is like an RPG game, and you get a little printout. And he is, except for having great luck and above average intelligence, he is completely normal. So normal that the registration desk girl is like, "You should become a merchant." He's like, I want to be an adventurer, please. Right? She, on the other hand, except for having the worst luck, no duh, and being dumb, she has outstanding abilities. So she gets to become not a priest, but an archpriest, right? So there are high-level and low-level classes you could become. And so everyone's like, "Awesome." So they go into a training montage, except they're doing everyday, laborer stuff.
That was the best, I think.
Yeah, this was hilarious because it builds it up. There's a music, going in the background, and they go into a training montage, and you see them working.
Oh,
Eating.
Albert, do you have the screenshot of her multicolored vomit?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay, good.
So bathing, drinking milk afterwards, sleeping in the stables, right? Partying, puking. And then he's like, "Wait a minute," after like days of this, he's like, "Wait a minute, that's not what we came here to do." And so their adventure will begin. And that's like essentially the first episode. It made me laugh so hard on so many levels. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't really act that dumb. I mean, she is dumb, but she doesn't really act that dumb. She's more like really unwise to the world. So I don't know about the end thing, but apparently she is dumb.
So
And,
can I just quickly add to that? Because as I was reading the light novels and watching this, I was like, she's nowhere as dumb as she is portrayed in the light novels.
Oh, really?
She's
Interesting.
worse?
Yeah, she seems like this total, oh my god, you're like, how stupid can she be? type of girl. And in this one, she's actually half decent. But
well, you watch the second episode and you're like, yeah, she's dumb. So, I don't know. Later on in episode 2, they meet the art wizard, Megumin, and as expected, not good for the party. And in episode 3, you meet the Crusader, Darkness, also not good. Kazuma is basically laden with all these useless characters in their own right, and it's funny finding out how useless they are. So he is, for the most part, going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm with these people, And I wouldn't say this is a trapped in the RPG world genre. It's more of a going into a different dimension, like Mondaiji or Rogue Hero. But it's an interesting take because he's completely average, except for having great luck, right? So he's completely average. He doesn't have a rare skill. He doesn't have a super weapon. He has a goddess who ends up being a liability for the most part, and he ends up saving her more. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of fun. Also, kind of mean-spirited the way they bicker and make jokes about all the bad things that happen to themselves, but at least it's not, oh, I've got a super weapon and I'm the greatest hero there ever was, or like in Sword Art Online, I have the rare skill of dual wielding and I'm the super badass. No, he is stuck, and he needs to go find the Demon Lord if he wants to ever get out of this world, and especially for Aqua, that's her condition for release. But so far, it's hilarious, and every episode, I'm stopping because I'm laughing so hard. So if you like comedy, if you like, a little fantasy world, but this is primarily a comedy, I highly recommend it.
So, as I was watching this, Outbreak Company came to mind. And the reason being was that one episode where they're teaching them the terms, and they had that one hatanai, I think it was, with no panties. And every time you see that goddess from behind, you're like, what the? Oh my God.
She's so dumb she forgot to put them on. That's my theory.
It could be. Yeah, there's a whole online thing about she's probably not wearing any. And then there's a whole another thread about, which I was laughing so hard I wasn't really paying attention that much, but her boob physics clearly indicate she's not wearing a bra. I'm like, okay, guys, I guess if that's what you're focusing on, fine, but the comedy is gold to me.
Yeah, like I had to demo that first episode a whole bunch. I enjoyed watching that particular potato chip scene again and again and again. Just because the demeanor of the goddess, with the realization of what's about to happen.
And that's great because you don't feel sorry for her since she was being kind of a bitch in that section. So she got what she deserved, and that's where most of the comedy springs from, is that if this show took itself seriously, you would feel horrible watching all of these terrible things happening to these people. But since they're not very likable characters, it's hilarious. It's schadenfreude is what it is.
Actually, I felt really sorry for the guy. I'm like, you really just should have chosen the power because you're kind of screwed in your current position. You did it for a good reason, but I mean, look at where you are now. I feel bad that he didn't have anything useful.
All the party members that join, that want to join, also useless.
Well, it's exactly like how if you ever have to go to a new school, the people that approach you first are not the ones you want to be friends with. That sounds horrible, but it's true. And so he's experiencing the same thing, where he's the new guy in town, and no one really wants to associate with someone who's completely average across the board, except for the problem children.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a site in a Japanese site that lists all the reactions from foreign viewers of anime. So that one was also pretty funny because you see all these comments, and yeah, there's a fair amount of talk about tits and ass, but there's a lot of, wow, I can't believe she's that mean to him, or wow, she's really clueless, or what a liability, you know. And all of that is pretty funny. But that's all I have to say for it. So check out the comedy in Konosuba.
All right, is that all? Nothing else to say about this? Okay, next title we have is... I don't even know what this one is. Oya wa Shishuki?
Oya-san wa Shishunki. Yeah. So it's actually a short. It's a 5-minute short, and as you can, it is based on a 4-panel manga, which that's the manga, and that's kind of the panel, which is essentially the first episode of what happened. So I think he's I've never seen him actually work, but I think he's a salaryman, right? A salary, just a business, worker. Maeda moves into this apartment, and all of a sudden there is a middle school girl that is like, oh, please take care, and he's like, what is going on? And turns out she is the landlord for some strange reason which has not yet been revealed, whether her parents gave her the building or her grandparents, no one knows. So anyway, it's just a wacky 5-minute comedy as he's trying to figure out his new place and the other strange inhabitants, and why his landlord is a middle school child. But it's 5 minutes. It's pretty funny, and they aren't taking themselves too seriously. And one of the other apartment dweller, I think she's 2 doors down. Anyway, I think her name was Reiko-san. She is very protection. Is very distrustful of our main character Maeda, and is like, Chie-chan, don't trust them. Men are all animals, especially the lolicons. So it's one of those comedy shorts.
Isn't this like a super short? Like it's only...
It's 5 minutes.
I swear it's not even 5 minutes, it seems to me.
Could be less. It does have a OP, so maybe that takes up.
I don't understand shows like that having openings. I understand the ending, but why an opening?
Don't know.
Maybe they just need to relay that information about what you cast. Like the ending's just like
they have a single to sell you. They got something to sell you. The CD single.
Not just the manga. You gotta sell stuff.
All right. So let me look at this list. I don't think we have anything else next, unless you guys did want to talk about Luck and Logic.
Nobody voted for that, right?
It's not good.
I thought I put a point in it.
Oh, you did?
I thought so. I should have. Just
Oh,
because
like-
I wanted
Well, let Nick talk about it.
Okay.
It's
so,
not that I wanted to talk about it as a show, but because it
Luck
kind
and
of
Logic.
pertains. Sorry, Tank. Go ahead, get that title in. All right. Oh, it's in there. So, well, I'm not going to comment much about the animation. As you guys may have known, I'm somewhat of a player in the card game Y Schwartz, which is by Bushi Road, which does a lot of stuff not just card gaming centric, but I forget what works that they have done before Y Schwartz. Like I think there was some card games they had under their belt, but they made that. Then they made Card Fight Vanguard, which got an animation. they also made this thing called Future Card Buddy Fight, which seemed targeted to a younger audience that had an animation. And this is yet another project from them that is a card game that they are going to release, but they released the animation first. So Luck and Logic is around to sell the card game that's going to come later this year. And the antics of the anime doesn't really portray the card game. Tank did tell me they have a short, like a little special thing that comes out where the characters of this show are kind of practicing the card game, but I haven't personally seen it, and I'm personally not really going to play it because I'm more vested in a White Schwartz than anything else because I like that whole animation side of things. But
I think I saw one episode of Luck and Logic. Was it like the characters have the cards that let them power up and then they fight the monsters or something like that?
They have like a card that is centric to them as a person, and a being from another world like mixes with that card, and like they get their abilities. And logic is like the mana system of this world. Like your logic is this measurable value that like it depletes like a battery over time and replenishes when you're not fighting, and it's just called logic.
Then when it gets low enough, you can watch this anime and enjoy it.
But so I'm thinking I might just watch it. Just to kind of see what this thing does. Like finally watch one of the animation projects that they do alongside a card game. But I will mention though, White Schwartz is older than Vanguard, so one thing that I'm not used to is their new systems of balance. I believe now, I was really sore about them bringing Vanguard over instead of White Schwartz like back in the day, but when I actually thought about it, it's like that is their newer system. This is their next generation card game, so it has like their new perspective on how to make it work better. And I'm thinking that might be what Luck and Logic might be, like the next really fluid game from them. I don't know how much it's going to change the mechanic between, because I've watched some games of Vanguard he played, and I do find it very similar to White Schwartz, but still different. And I don't know if Luck and Logic's going to be that way, because the card game's not really out yet. But one thing I did also want to comment on is I think that is like the perfect name for a card game. Like you just can't get any better than Luck and Logic. Like that suits card games really, really well. So I'm kind of happy for them that they got the name on that one.
The only thing I remember about Luck and Logic at this point is that when the characters became CG, they looked way better than when they were hand drawn, and that was really bad. Nick, I'm just curious. Have you played Wicross or Bahamut Genesis, whatever that's based on?
Well, the Bahamut was a mobile-based game, and I did play the mobile game a little bit, but I kind of quickly gave up on it. It was really rustic, in my opinion. Recross I have not played at all, nor have I been interested in it much at all. I don't even know if it was like translated like over here officially. I think you have to like buy the Japanese stuff and like use like translation inserts to kind of play it. Like there's no market to make it the American Recross. But Bushido Road does have like footholds in other countries, and they are pushing their card game out. Vanguard, like I said, did come over here first, but then they gave kind of the legacy support to White Schwartz, and it's actually kind of funny. If you didn't mind me talking about White Schwartz really quickly, I was just on their site the other day, and it was kind of funny because they mentioned that they're going to be doing Nisei Monogatari next, and they mentioned that it's going to be like an English exclusive. Like apparently we didn't ever make Nisei Monogatari card set in Japanese. Like that's just for the English people. Like, really? Is this really going to be an English exclusive title? Like, I didn't see that happening.
They'll never make an anime of that one, because that would be like making an anime of Super Robot Wars or something. That would be amazing if they did. Just like get all these licenses and make this like meaningless Super Cameo Fest OVA. I'd watch that.
So why is no one liking Luck and Logic?
Okay, so I watched the first 2 episodes. I did give it a go. It just seemed kind of, again, very generic. A stereotype you can see from the image I've got here, which is the announcement for the anime. It's typical typical light novel type story. Hey, the hero returns. He used to be a logician, I think that's what they're called, or logicalist. I forget.
Yeah, logicalist.
Logicalist, which is dumb, but he used to be that, and he performed this one maneuver that made him lose the card that allowed him to transform. And 2 years later, I think it's 2 years later, he is a normal person, but miraculously his card is rediscovered, and he makes a contract with the goddess Athena. But everyone else, except for one guy who's not a logicalist yet, is girls, right? They're all girls, so it's the typical harem. He is super powerful. All the girls contract with other entities, but they're all girls in this case. So Valkyrie and I forget who else, Venus and Artemis. And yeah, that's about it. So I just didn't feel. I'm really tired of the typical the stand-in for the viewer is a superhero dude that can do no wrong, and all the girls fawn over him. I'm like, I'm done.
It really wasn't going that way yet, but I mean, not to say that it will or won't, but just to kind of paint on the universe a little bit more, like what makes this animation, like what is the main story here? You have like alternative universes that like span different things, not necessarily just like the portion where these goddesses are coming from, and kind of like Digimon style, they like come out of their perspective universe and take foothold in ours, and they have to like possess people to like be around. So not only did they like invade, but they have to kind of like transjack someone's logic to like manipulate the world as to what they like, and that's kind of like what these guys are. They're a task force who deals with these invaders that take over random people in society and just try to be generally destructive. Like that is the premise. And like there's various levels of like how dangerous something is. Like they kind of have it on a Richter scale where like 2s and whatnot aren't that big of a deal, but like 10's like holy crap. Like shit's gonna happen.
What is it?
Oh, and the bad guys are
Dragon
called
level?
foreigners.
Wait, what?
The bad guys are called foreigners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the people who invade
They must
from
be
these
expelled.
Yeah, go home, Gaijin. So Jessica, you watched this too, right?
I did. I watched the first 2 episodes, and again, I had that feeling of, ugh, do I have to watch episode 3? And that's when I told myself, no, you don't have to watch episode 3. You've done your time. And it was derivative. There was nothing fresh brought to the table. The character designs are really cute, but that's not enough to keep me coming back.
Right. Like my only point of watching it is like how well do these guys try to sell a card game through the series? Like what is their purpose for doing this animation? I think with the brand name Bushido Road alone would kind of sell the game at this point, because I found myself enjoying their style of games. Like I have played a lot of card games in my time, and I like how even and balanced their brand of system is. So I noticed it in Vanguard, although I'm not a player of it. I honestly played it in Weiss, and while I haven't tried many of their projects, a lot of card games to me, when you start playing, somebody can have this like strategy that just like snowballs out of control, and a lot of times the deck, while luck you might argue is a big part of these series, like, especially with games like Magic, your draws could really prevent you from playing anything, and it could be a fine working deck, but like how you draw just destroys any chance you had of even playing the game. And Bushido Road only designs games that kind of that element of being screwed. So you can always play an enjoyable game with any of the projects that they've done so far that I have played. So for that aspect alone, I appreciate them.
Oops, I was muted. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which is Oshiete Yarako-chan.
I'm not going to say much about this anime. I feel like the more I say about it, the more my dignity will be eroded. But it's a short comedy about the mysteries of the girls. And for example, I think in the first episode, the question came up: Are the areolas larger if your breasts are larger or not? And that was the question, and they went around the round table, and nobody knew the answer, and that was the whole thing. And then I looked it up on Wikipedia because I'm like, man, I have to know this. This is what this show does to me. It will do it to you too. It will present these mysteries and not answer them, and like people, there'll just be. It's just about like stupid conjecture about women's physiology, and there's. As part of the round table, there's Galko-chan, who is a gyaru. She is a kind of a fashionable delinquent. There is, I forgot what her name is, but may as well just be called Otaku-chan.
Yeah, it was like Otako, I almost want to say, but that might be a little bit off.
Why not call her Meganecker-chan?
It's pretty much it.
And then maybe the third one was called Hime-chan or something. And she's got the Hime cut, you know, she's the role model. And then you also have like a bunch of boys in the back who will sometimes chime in or just sort of overhear, and then their brains get infected by the mystery. It's like, is that true? And then they start doing stupid things to test it out. Like I think in the latest episode they were talking about like, if you have big breasts, then it will put this much load on your chest, and then some of the boys were like really fascinated by that, and then suddenly they're like, okay, this is they tied a string around their neck, and they tied like two plastic bottles of water around. They were just walking around with that. They're like, does it really feel like this? It's like a 7-minute gag comedy thing. I think it's the only one of the. Oh no, it's this and Oya-san wa something something. That's the other one that I'm watching.
So, I've heard a lot of people refer to it as the SYD short.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, yeah. It's crude, but it's not like crudeness is the joke, I guess.
Right, yeah, because like most of the conversation happens between like a mostly female cast with the guys kind of off hearing and reacting to that their own way, but there's like no intermingling so far of like the female to male perspective. So
yeah, so it's a little bit like Kyo no Gono ni, which is also a gag comedy about like it was like a sex comedy with grade schoolers, which is really I know that sounds weird, but.
This is anime.
Yep. That's Galko-chan.
I remember that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Today in Class 5-2 or something like that. There's an OVA series and then a TV series of it.
All right. Some of the content is funny. And it's pretty short, so it's easy to get through. I think this is one of those 12-minute shorts, right? Or 15?
Galko-chan? It's like 8 minutes or so.
Some sort of weird number, but yeah. I think it's within 10, and it's part of a block of Ultra Super Anime Time 10-minute shorts. So Sekko Boys is part of that, and so is Tapimachi Late Show.
Ugh, Sekoi Boys.
Sekoi Boys. Yeah, the runtime on is 750 on an episode I just moused over. So.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. I believe this is what Nick wants to talk about. Prince of Stride.
Hmm.
I don't even think I gave this the one episode watch.
Oh. Well,
I
not
didn't,
to
I
say
didn't
it's
watch
that
it
good,
either.
but
Do you have something against reverse harems, Tankun?
it's not really that much of a reverse harem though, which
Not
is
really, no.
it's really a sports anime at its heart. It's a lot like Free in a sense. So not as extreme as Free, but where most people went, yeah, oh, Free's pretty cool.
Free, totally extreme. Extreme
well,
anime.
That's the third
Right.
season.
Free extreme.
but I actually kind of watched this thing, and at first I was wondering if it was gonna like be some kind of like a tennis show. Like I thought I was about to like, I'm like, is this like another season of like Prince of Tennis, and I'm just not aware of this? Like, where did this title come from? And I watched it, and in the first opening video, you are shown this sequence of like people just like running through this street, almost like parkour style, doing this like tag team relay event thing that ultimately is called Stride. And all you really know is that in this school that the main heroine transfers into, she wants to somehow work with their Stride Club because she was so impressed by this video. And she goes to look for this Stride Club, and she also has kind of two obscure classmates who are going to be the other two main protagonists of this show. One of them who's like, this running centered freak, right? He like alters his diet and everything he does to only to get faster and like build the perfect team. And you have this guy who ultimately just wanted to try to do something fun in high school. Like he wanted to try out for all the sports he possibly could. And although he was not good at them, every sport team noticed his sheer speed and how they could apply that to their team if they could make him better. So they're like, oh, what could we do to get you on our team? He's like, oh, I'll just join your team anyway, but do you mind if I'm on all these other teams too? And they're just like, what? Like, you just can't like devote that much time to every team. It just won't work. So in the meantime, our heroine protagonist, I'm not sure of her name, I'm sorry, this is really early off for me, finds the club eventually with aid of another, but that doesn't matter this time. And it's essentially actually a merged club at this point. The seniors have entered that last year where they're not really allowed to participate in clubs sometimes, and so the Stride Club is effectively down to one operating member. And they had another club that was dropped down to 2 members, which was the Shogi Club. And much like a lot of Japanese clubs, you have to have 3 active members to stay active. So they kind of merged the 2 clubs together. It is the Stride Shogi Club, and all members are proficient in both aspects. And
this like what is it, the like brass band and volleyball club or badminton club in that other anime Tari Tari? You like merge these 2 nonsense clubs together just so they can continue to be a club.
So with the new transfers in, we actually have enough members to make an active Stride Club. But not all members were actually on board for this. The one guy who wanted to be on all sports in particular, I'm talking about. So they have this random thing where they're like, oh, we're gonna have this in-school event. We're gonna have this race, and if we win, you have to be on the team, and if you lose, do whatever you want. So they put out this message to the school that they're actually going to have this match, right? And there's only as of the moment, there's only 3 people in the previous club, and we only have 3 new people entering. So you have 6 members here, and the whole school comes together. They're like, what? That club is doing something? And people just scramble to set up lighting, set up cameras, and everyone's just setting stuff up and making a course through the hallways and putting up obstacles. And it's and people are collecting in onlooker locations, right? They're like, oh my god, this club is actually doing something. So you have the whole school motivation, and I'm like, my god, what is about to happen here? And that's ultimately kind of what it is. They literally raced through the school, interior and out, in a parkour style track. And the conclusion of the first episode hits with the results of the race. So
it's also like a relay too, though, because there's a point where the running overlaps, and you have to tag the other person within that time or that area.
Yeah.
The rules aren't 100% clear.
And then you put on anti-gravity shoes and then fly out.
right? But actually, that in and of itself is kind of interesting because in a relay race, you typically have this baton, and you're running at this guy who's just standing there. Well, to make this different than that relay level of sports, you have one guy who's like waiting for the runner to come up, but he's like off scene somewhere. He's not actually waiting in one spot. And you have this guy running, and you have this person who's like managing your team. They are called the relayer, and they look at everyone's like GPS location on this tablet device, and when the other person gets so close, they cue the other person to start running. So now you have the guy who was running, and you have the other guy who just started running kind of meet up around some kind of blind corner usually. Sometimes it's a clear view, but a lot of times it's of this blind corner. So they come out of this corner, and they're given like this grace area of the track where they have to tag each other before the other runner can take off. It's not really explained what happens if you don't tag, and they haven't actually got to that yet so far in like episode 3. But you have to tag them before your runner exits that area, and once the tag's done, the race continues. But like that aspect was kind of cool in my opinion. Like they're not just standing there waiting for the tag; they actually have to they're standing somewhere slightly off course, and they have to start running to build up speed and randomly meet up with this person to tag. So that's kind of interesting.
And then the show pulls back the curtain, and it's actually a zombie apocalypse, and that's how they scavenge the resources and get them across the zombie mobs.
Yeah, no word yet if our new hires have to learn shogi anytime soon. 2 of them seem kind of flexible in that opinion, but the other running freak is like, no, I'm not playing that game.
Well,
so it's
not called Prince of Shogi.
So this is basically like Air Gear without the rollerblades, or?
You know, I actually kind of had a really big Air Gear inspiration from this because like when they were setting up the track in the field, Air Gear had this like visualization of the track. They went into this like 3D thing where they went like into like a 3D layout of the building, and they kind of arrowed the track out. And this show does the exact same thing. And when they're running, it tries to go to more action cuts. Now, you can't get as extreme as Air Gear did, because you had like rocket-powered rollerblades in that show. But I did kind of get more of an Air Gear vibe than that other Flying Shoe anime this season. So, like, not to say it's as shonen-y as Air Gear will be. It's definitely more of a sports. Like Air Gear kind of went off on its own tangent about like the rollerblade things, like lots of unfeasible, unfounded sciences, and like this show's just going to be pretty much a sports anime, except of this not actual sport. We don't have this thing called stride. So, a lot of times when you're watching a sports anime, it's of football, it's of tennis, it's of something that we actually play. We don't have a curling yet, but people are looking forward to it. So we have this completely made up sport now, and that's,
What was that game, like Mirror's Edge?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that?
I haven't played it, but I'll
that's
just
what you're thinking of, yeah. It's the first-person parkour dystopian action game.
Yeah, but like, where's this when you really just can't decide? Like, sometimes you can cut through the track. They call it like a shortcut, but like the track is pretty defined, and unless it benefits you to jump ahead, they don't really cover many of those aspects, like how all that stuff works.
All right.
Is it any good? Is Prince of Stride any good?
I'd say you have to check it out and see if it's in your interest. I would think if you watched Free and thought, yeah, this is okay, you can absolutely enjoy this, but...
But would I say this is also okay, or is this less okay? Like, is this crappy or Free, or is it doing something else?
It's doing something else for sure. It's not trying to be the next coming of Free, but it has some of those elements present. So, like, if you can tolerate Free, then you can love. It is a shonen-y version of. But like if you can say like, yes, I've watched Free and I'm okay with like a lot of the weird stuff that doesn't actually happen in Free, then this show doesn't really try to take it any further or anything.
Okay.
All right. So, is there anything else you guys would like to talk about, or maybe mention something from last talk for Jessica and Albert?
Anything else? No, not really.
Like, how about Active Rave? I know that's like one of the best shows this season.
That was
about that
a
English.
watch first episode and done. Same with Phantasy Star Online 2. Watch the first episode, done.
Let's see. I think I've watched 3 episodes of Active Raid so
Wow.
far.
Hey, the third one was kind of like, at that point where at least I've watched this, I can give up somewhat happily now.
I don't know why. I keep coming back. It's weird.
It is
I mean,
weird.
they had an idol, or a robot dancing around like an idol in one of the episodes.
Pretending
Complete
to
with
be a
the
trap character.
It's like a person in an Iron Man suit. It's not a
Yeah.
robot.
So, the thing that bugged me about that was how she added those random English words.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She like breaks down in our English. Not rants because they're usually just one-liners, but
That is weird.
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to get a handle on that show because it tries to immediately remind you of like I don't want to say Tiger and Bunny, but like that's the thing that comes to mind because you have this level of like police activism, except like in that show it was more of a game show hero thing, and this one it's an actual police division. But I don't know what I could say. If you like this show, you'll like Active Raid, just because I don't know what I have to really compare it to.
It's probably not the
weird.
second coming of Pal Labor, right?
Right.
Okay.
No. And what about I see Jessica watched Norn Nanette.
I
Oh
gave it a shot.
gosh. I stopped. I think I got maybe 10 or 12 minutes in, and I was just, nope, done. I'll play the game. I will
Wow.
play the game.
You will play the game.
Yeah, it's based on an otome game.
Right.
So I figure if I'm going to get the story, I may as well play the game instead of watching the subpar anime adaptation with horrible animation and just, yeah.
Well, see, I'm not vested into playing such a game, so I was actually going to give that anime just a simple shot.
No.
I don't
No.
watch. Hey, I don't try to watch this genre a lot, and usually I am very turned away when you get the whole like reverse harem thing going. Like I kind of suffered through what was that last show I gave it a shot with that sound one that I can't remember the name of. Sean, you watched it too. What was that one with the guy with the headphones?
Oh,
Out something. And
Dramatic Cool Murder? Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking
Oh!
about? Man, that was some garbage.
I know it was, but
I saw all of
this
it.
show seems a little bit better thus far, and it doesn't have the whole, like pretty boy thing going for it hardcore. Like there is a pretty balanced cast here, kind of for the most part. At the moment, you at least have 2 other females, so it seems better. So I might give it like a shot. I'm gonna pander on with it a little bit longer, personally.
So what do you guys think about Haruchika?
I didn't get past the first episode.
I can't help but compare it to Sound Euphonium, where if I hadn't seen Sound Euphonium, I'd probably enjoy it a whole lot more than I currently do. But it's not bad. It's just not Sound Euphonium.
How much have you seen of it?
2 episodes, I
Okay.
think. 2 or 3.
Well,
Why does it get worse?
No, I've only seen 1 episode, but the question I had after seeing 1 episode that I would not answer for myself because I didn't want to watch the rest of it is does it continue to be like an episodic mystery series, or is it about a band trying to win a competition?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of what episode 2 was even about.
To me, it seemed like it was going to be a love triangle.
I have to get back to you on that. It's been a crazy week for me, and I haven't watched any anime, so
Oh, okay.
sad week. But I don't think they tried to do a mystery in episode 2.
Yeah. Like I watched the first episode and I was kind of happy that was there, like that whole mystery thing, and I thought like it was going to be about other stuff and the instruments, and then I kind of like skimmed through episode 2, and saw it was mostly about instrument stuff, so I jumped at that point. Like instruments and just don't capture my interest. I love the sound that they produce, and I'll enjoy listening to it. I just don't care to see the people struggling to make the sound.
I think they just had a practice session, actually. Yeah, it wasn't a standout episode.
Okay. And the only other thing I could think of is Divine Gate. Anyone else liking that?
I haven't seen it.
I dropped it after 2 episodes. It just wasn't holding my interest. I mean, it leaves a lot of plot hooks, I guess, to so that you can become invested in the characters, but I just didn't really care for any of them. So.
The hell is Divine Gate? It's like a card game anime.
It's like one of those
smartphone app anime.
Yeah, like another one of those. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Like, Bahamut was technically one. We had one from a season very recently. I just can't recall what it was called.
Well, you can get the Evangelion characters in Divine Gate. And Shira. And Miku.
Oh, snap. I'm getting the Miku one.
Uh-oh. I joined Puzzles and Dragons for their Final Fantasy and Ava collab. Ugh.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, I've watched up to episode 3 of that thing, and 3 was very disjointed. Like the camera was jumping around a whole bunch, covering like stuff, and it didn't seem like, episode 1 was all right, 2 was about something kind of weird, and 3 just seemed like it was trying to like jerk your attention everywhere, and it just wasn't working out for it. It just didn't seem coherent. I watched 3, and I was kind of like trying to do something else at the same time, and I looked back, I'm like, what the crap did I miss? Like, how did we get here? 3 was kind of a mess. 2 was not that great. 1 was not anything above par anyway. But I think studio that Puriat is doing this adaptation from,
Oh, the Naruto guys?
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright. So I think that'll be it for our anime talk today. Thank you guys for joining us. Once again, our art, our cover sheet is by Owen Evans. Visit his site, check out his art. Help support him. He does all this stuff for us. And any last words, Albert?
Nope. Just we'll see you at the end of the season, and we'll see how good some of the shows will end up being. But seriously, the best show right now, I think, is Boku no Inai Machi. Boku dake ga inai machi.
And I would say the Rakugo anime is right up there.
I concur.
Machi and the Rakugo anime, those are the 2 best.
Yep.
Nick?
Huh? Are we doing recommendations? I missed what was going on. What
Just
are we
last
talking-
words.
Last words.
Oh, last words. No, I'm good.
Quote, no, I'm good. Nick's
Okay,
last
watch anime. Like watch 30 things per season, like I do.
word.
That is my last word for everyone. It'll solve all the hardships in your life. Not really.
Alright. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Until next time. Bye, B.
I've learned that the proper phrase is by knee and not by be. I was saying it wrong. So,
What?
by knee.
Bye, me? Okay.
I looked it up.